Hello and welcome to another edition of HUGH'S News. African leaders sign DR Congo peace deal. Agreement could lead to United Nations intervention brigade of 2,500 troops to tackle armed groups in war-torn eastern region. Italians vote in key parliamentary elections meanwhile, and over in the Vatican, scandals cloud the Pope's final days. Palestinian prisoners hold mass hunger strike, and over in Afghanistan, Karzai demands US forces leave 2 provinces. Let's take a look at The Guardian now. And Vince Cable says AAA loss is largely symbolic, shrugging off Moody's decision to downgrade the UK. Clegg, meanwhile, attacks PM on mansion tax. Tories criticised for adhering to instincts against fairer taxation, even as people on lower incomes feel the pinch. Comments, Conservatives need to adopt the politics of fairness. Afghan forces stop suicide attack. Italy fears political stalemate. Democratic Party battles Berlusconi's Freedom Party as surveys show 5 million voters unsure who to back. Doctors face tougher language checks, and the BBC knew of Savile's dark side. Oxford uproar over Israel motion, threatening emails, accusations of racism, and walkout by George Galloway following motion at Students' Union. And farmers suffer their worst ever year, whilst killer robots must be stopped. Autonomous weapons, which could be ready within a decade, pose grave risk to international law, claim activists. And junk DNA claim comes under fire. Rivals accuse team behind scientific surprise of 2012 of knowing nothing about evolutionary biology. Let's take a look at the Socialist Worker now. Bedroom tax scandal. Tories want to take our homes. Poor people in social housing are resisting the Tories' bedroom tax. And Eurozone crisis could mean German credit downgrade. Predictions that the Eurozone was coming out of its crisis have turned to dust. Time to rally now to save the NHS. And it's Bargie's tea in solidarity for BBC strikers in Scotland. Whilst controversy in education, Gove rewrites history brackets curriculum. Michael Gove is facing a storm of protests over the draft history curriculum published earlier this month. Look at some of those stories down the right hand side. And general strike paralyses Greece. Let's take a break now from the news and look at something different. Over at The Sun, and it's I Sure See Riri in the CC. Pop Queen frolics in the surf on romantic trip to Hawaii with boyfriend Chris Brown. Financial Times now. Let's take a bottom-up approach today. Many Chinese cities are now rediscovering traditional architecture. Shanghai starts search for its heritage. Jamaica aims to restore market confidence, and Lisbon anti-austerity groups get creative. Syria rebels blame Hezbollah for clashes, and Ecuador's president glows from poll win. Leader plans to use last term to make socialist change irreversible. That's him. Rafael Correa claims another term in Ecuador, riding that socialist wave, nationalising airport operator. Meanwhile, German president urges UK to stay in the EU. Celebrities including Hugh Grant, Kevin Spacey and others support the billionaire Lebedev as his hooliganism case trial nears. Lunch with Donald Trump. And France asks Brussels for budget pass. The finance minister seeks an extra year to hit those difficult deficit targets. Hollywood now to be wheeled out as some kind of a PR machine to cast the CIA in a fairer light. Some would argue the CIA doesn't have a PR problem, it has a reality problem. But enough on the terrorist organisation for now. Abe lays out vision of Japan power in Asia. And Italy's poll promises to spring a surprise. Italy's going to the poll in a close election. Protest vote could be crucial. And that's it from the Financial Times. Let's take a look at the Daily Mail now. Top story, Britain's top Catholic cleric accused of inappropriate acts against 4 priests days before he helps choose the new pope. And other stories, meanwhile, 7 in 10 lamb kebabs adulterated with cheaper meats. Drug-tainted horse meat may have entered the food chain in France now. And MPs' computers used to access hardcore fetish porn sites more than 2,500 times. And finally, eco-catastrophe, how MPs are in the pay of subsidised eco-firms set insane new carbon targets that send your bills skyrocketing and drag us back to a new dark age, says the Daily Mail. Over at the New York Times now, swollen with Syrian refugees, Lebanon feels its stitching fray. Election violence in Kenya. Seeking direction in Yemen. Yemen's transition has been held up as a model for resolving Syria's civil war, but beyond the capital, the country is still more rudderless than ever. And Palestinians demand inquiry into detainees' death in Israel. Whilst in the last Sunday address, the Pope says he is following God's wishes. And the Catholic Church is seeking new markets in Africa. With 16% of the world's Catholics now living in Africa, the Church's future, many say, lies in the continent. That's all we've got time for today on Hugh's News. Do join me for another episode coming up soon.